The great chamber of the Galactic Council stood silent as Supreme Commander Vrethok raised his scaled hand. Around the circular hall, representatives from 40 different species watched the holographic display floating above them. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, peaceful and unaware. "Earth," Vrethok said, his reptilian voice echoing through the chamber. "A primitive world that achieved faster than light, travel only 15 cycles ago. Their military consists of outdated kinetic weapons and nuclear devices. They have established merely 7 colony worlds, all poorly defended." The council members murmured among themselves. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked at the data streams, showing Earth's population, resources, and strategic location near 3 major trade routes. Councillor Methus of the Aquarian delegation spoke next. "Their industrial capacity is impressive for such a young species. The mineral wealth of their system alone would fund our expansion for a generation. The vote is clear. We must act before they grow stronger." In the back of the chamber, Observer Klikth of the Chithari people shifted on his many legs. His compound eyes had spent 2 years studying human history files, watching their wars, reading their literature. He raised one thin arm. "I must protest this decision," Klikth said, his translator making his clicking speech understandable. "I have studied these humans extensively. They are not like other species we have absorbed into the Council. Their history shows a pattern. When pushed to the edge, they do not break. They become more dangerous." Vrethok's eyes narrowed. "You speak of primitive tribal conflicts. We command 300 warships equipped with plasma weapons and shield technology they cannot penetrate. Our forces have conquered 40 systems. What can one backward species do against the might of the Council?" Klikth clicked his mandibles in frustration. "They have survived ice ages, plagues that killed half their population, and wars that burned their entire world. Each time they rebuild, each time they adapt. Their literature glorifies sacrifice and resistance. They have a saying, 'Give me liberty or give me death.' These are not words of a species that surrenders easily." "Superstition," Methus said dismissively. "We have analyzed their military capabilities. Their largest warship carries weapons that could not scratch our shields. This debate wastes time. I call for the vote." The chamber filled with light as each delegate cast their decision. Green lights dominated the display. 347 votes for invasion. Only 12 against. Klikth watched his own people vote yes, and felt something cold in his thorax. "The decision is made," Vrethok declared. "Admiral Krethix will lead the invasion fleet. We will offer them one chance to surrender and join the Council as a vassal state. If they refuse, we will take their world by force. Minimal casualties on our side. A quick, clean conquest." The Council adjourned. Klikth remained in his seat, watching the hologram of Earth spin peacefully. He thought of the human films he had watched. Stories of farmers becoming soldiers, of scientists building weapons, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things when their homes were threatened. The Council had made a terrible mistake, but no one would listen to an observer from a minor species. On Earth, Ambassador Min Jun sat in his office at the Seoul Space Command Center. The detection arrays had picked up something unusual at the edge of the solar system. Massive energy signatures. Not natural, not friendly. "How many?" he asked the technician. "We count at least 300 contacts, sir. They are not responding to hails. They are moving in formation toward the inner system." Min Jun felt his stomach drop. Humanity had always known this moment might come. Ever since they had discovered faster-than-light travel and found themselves in a galaxy full of older, more powerful civilizations, they had feared it. First contact had been peaceful with some species, but the Galactic Council had always treated humanity like children. Useful children. Perhaps, but not equals. "Send a message to all colonies," Min Jun said quietly. Code Phoenix. Tell them it has begun. Code Phoenix. The plan they had hoped never to use. Every human colony, every ship, every station, had received the same instructions years ago. If invasion came, they would fight. Not because they could win, but because surrender was not in their nature. Within hours, the message spread across human space. On Mars colony, families rushed to underground shelters, while soldiers took positions around the defense platforms. On Europa Station, workers began converting civilian ships into makeshift warships. On distant Proxima colony, settlers loaded ancient rifles alongside modern plasma cutters, preparing to defend their homes with whatever they had. The United Earth government convened an emergency session. President Ji Woo addressed the council with a grave face. We have confirmation. A fleet of unknown size is entering our system. They have not responded to peaceful contact. We must assume hostile intent. We cannot win this fight, said Defense Minister Park. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Our best warships are target practice for them. Then we make them pay for every inch, Ji Woo said. We have 3 billion people on Earth. 7 colonies, with another billion people. We have factories, shipyards, and the determination of a species that has survived everything this universe has thrown at us. Send the message to every human in space. We will not go quietly. We will not surrender. We will show them what it means to threaten Earth. 1. Captain Seo Yun received the orders aboard the destroyer, Indomitable, in orbit around Mars. Her crew of 200 looked to her for guidance. She was only 30 years old, promoted quickly because of her tactical brilliance. Now she would put that brilliance to the ultimate test. All hands, this is the captain, she said over the ship intercom. We have contact with a hostile fleet. They outnumber us, they outgun us. But they made one critical mistake. They came to our home. They threatened our families. They think we will run or surrender. Let us show them how wrong they are. The crew cheered. They knew death was likely. They knew the odds. But they were human. And humans had never been good at accepting the impossible. At the edge of the solar system, Admiral Krethix watched the scans of human space with satisfaction. Their defenses were pathetic. A few dozen warships scattered across several planets, orbital stations with minimal weapons. This would be over in days. Send the surrender demand, he ordered. Give them one chance to submit peacefully. The message was sent. The response from Earth was simple and direct. Come and take it. Krethix laughed, a harsh sound that made his bridge crew nervous. So be it. All ships, advance. Target their military assets first. Show them the price of defiance. The Council fleet moved forward. 300 warships against humanity's scattered defenses. It seemed like no contest. It seemed like certain victory. They had no idea what they had just started. The Council fleet crossed into the inner solar system like a wave of steel and fire. Admiral Krethix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The human forces were scattered, disorganized. This would be a lesson to the galaxy about the price of refusing the Council's offer. Sir, detecting multiple contacts near Mars orbit. His sensor officer reported. 32 human warships. They are moving to intercept. Arly 2P. 1 Paplic outer 50s. 1 Paplix. Krethix studied the display. 32 ships against his 300. He almost felt pity for them. Lock weapons. Prepare to demonstrate Council superiority. Captain Seo Yun watched the massive enemy fleet approach from her position aboard the Indomitable. Every screen showed the same thing. They were hopelessly outnumbered. Her crew was silent, waiting for orders. She thought of her daughter back on Earth. Only 5 years old, probably scared in a shelter somewhere. All ships, this is Seo Yun, she broadcast on the tactical channel. We cannot match them in firepower or technology, so we will not try. Remember your training. Speed, surprise, and sacrifice. Make every shot count. Make every death matter. For Earth. For Earth, 32 captains responded. The human ships suddenly scattered in every direction. Krethix frowned. That was not a standard formation. That was chaos. His weapons officers struggled to lock onto targets, moving in seemingly random patterns. Fire at will, he ordered. Eliminate them quickly. Plasma bolts lit up the space near Mars. The Council's weapons were devastating, each shot capable of destroying a human ship with a single hit. 2 human destroyers exploded in the first salvo, then 3 more. But the human ships were not running. They were diving straight into the Council formation. Seo-Yon pushed her ship to maximum speed, weaving between enemy fire. Her weapons officer launched everything they had. Missiles, kinetic rounds, even their emergency lifeboats filled with explosives, and set to detonate on proximity. It was madness. It was desperation. It was working. A Council cruiser took 3 missile hits to its shield generator. The shields flickered. A human frigate, already heavily damaged and venting atmosphere, turned directly toward the cruiser and increased speed. Krethix watched in shock as the frigate rammed into the cruiser's weakened shields, both ships exploding in a ball of fire. "What are they doing?" his tactical officer shouted. "They are using their own ships as weapons." More human ships followed the same tactic. Damaged vessels with no hope of survival turned into guided missiles, their crews singing war songs as they crashed into Council ships. The tactic was insane. It was wasteful. It was terrifying. "All ships, maintain formation," Krethix ordered, but his voice had lost its confidence. "Focus fire. Bring down their command ship." Seo-Yon felt her ship shake as plasma bolts hammered their shields. Red lights flashed across every console. They had minutes at best before complete shield failure. She looked at her crew, young faces, scared but determined. "Get to the escape pods," she ordered. "Captain, we are not leaving you," her first officer said. "That is an order," Seo-Yon said firmly. "I need to keep this ship moving for 3 more minutes. Get to the pods and tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we made them bleed." The crew reluctantly abandoned their posts. Seo-Yon sat alone in the captain's chair, manually piloting the dying ship. She targeted the Council flagship, the biggest ship in their fleet. She would not destroy it. Her weapons were too weak, but she could hurt it. She could show them that humans did not surrender. "For my daughter," she whispered, and pushed the engines to overload. Krethix saw the human destroyer coming straight at his flagship. His shields were at full power. The small ship could not possibly harm the Eternal Dominion. He almost dismissed it until his sensor officer screamed a warning. "Admiral, that ship's reactor is overloading. It is going to explode. Evasive maneuvers." Krethix roared. But the Dominion was too large, too slow. Seo-Yon's ship hit the flagship's forward shields at maximum speed. The reactor detonated a second later with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The shields held but collapsed completely. Alarms screamed across the Dominion's bridge. Secondary explosions rippled across the flagship's hull as the blast wave damaged unshielded systems. The battle around Mars lasted 4 hours. When it ended, all 32 human warships were destroyed. But they had taken 19 Council ships with them and damaged 40 more. 1/5 of the invasion fleet was combat ineffective, and they had not even reached Earth yet. Krethix stared at the casualty reports with disbelief. How? How had primitive humans inflicted such losses? His crew worked frantically to repair damaged systems. The mood on the bridge had changed from confidence to uncertainty. Observer Klixth, monitoring the battle from a Council station far behind the front lines, watched the tactical recordings with his compound eyes. He saw human pilots deliberately sacrificing themselves. He saw ships ramming enemy vessels. He saw tactics born from desperation and determination. "They told you," he clicked quietly to himself. "They told you, humans do not break." On Earth, the news of the Mars battle spread like fire. 32 ships destroyed. But they had hurt the enemy. They had proven that humanity could fight back. In shelters and bunkers around the world, people wept for the lost crews and then prepared themselves. If Mars could hurt them, Earth could hurt them more. The Council fleet continued toward Earth, but more slowly now. Krethix sent scouts ahead and deployed more defensive formations. The humans had already sprung several traps using remotely piloted asteroids as weapons, and improvised minefields made from reprogrammed cargo containers. Each step toward Earth cost more ships, more lives. President Jiwoo addressed the world from a hidden command bunker. The Mars defenders gave us time. They gave us hope. They showed the invaders that we will not make this easy. Every city is fortified. Every citizen is armed. If they want our world, they will have to take it one street at a time, one building at a time. We will turn Earth itself into a weapon. Factories across the planet worked around the clock. Car manufacturers built armored vehicles. Computer companies programmed attack drones. Even children helped, running messages and supplies to soldiers. Humanity had become a hive of unified purpose. Survival. The Council fleet finally reached Earth orbit 7 days after the Mars battle. Krethix looked at the planet below with grim determination. His superiors demanded quick results. The other Council species were asking questions about the casualties. He needed a decisive victory. Begin orbital bombardment of military targets, he ordered. Prepare ground forces for landing. We will take their capital city first and force their government to surrender. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit, striking military bases and weapons factories. But the humans had prepared. Most valuable assets were already underground or hidden. The bombardment hurt, but did not cripple them. The first wave of Council landing craft descended toward Seoul. Krethix expected terrified civilians and scattered resistance. Instead, every building seemed to erupt with weapons fire. Humans with rifles, missiles, and improvised explosives hit the landing craft from every direction. The first wave suffered 70% casualties before even reaching the ground. In the ruins of Seoul's business district, young soldier Jae-sung crouched behind rubble with his squad. He was 19 years old and had been a university student last month. Now he held a plasma rifle taken from a dead alien soldier and waited for the next wave of invaders. Here they come, his sergeant whispered. Jae-sung tightened his grip on the weapon. He thought of his family hiding in the subway tunnels below the city. He thought of every human who had ever fought for their home. The Council soldiers advanced down the street, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. They expected easy victory over primitive natives. They were about to learn they were wrong. 3 years had passed since the Council fleet arrived at Earth. 3 long years of grinding. Brutal warfare that neither side had expected. The Council controlled Earth's orbit and several major cities, but they paid for every street corner with blood. Jae-sung had stopped counting the days somewhere around month 4. He crouched in what used to be a shopping center in Seoul, now a maze of rubble and defensive positions. His squad had fought in this sector for 2 months straight. Of the 12 soldiers who started with him, only 4 remained. Movement, North Corridor, whispered Private Hana, her eyes never leaving her rifle's scope. She was only 17 but had the cold efficiency of a veteran. Jae-sung signaled the squad to positions. 3 Council soldiers in heavy armor appeared, sweeping the area with their advanced sensors. The humans held perfectly still. They had learned that the alien sensors could detect movement and heat, but struggled with stationary targets among rubble that was the same temperature as human bodies. The Council soldiers walked past their hiding spot. Jae-sung waited, counting heartbeats. When all 3 aliens had their backs turned, he gave the signal. 4 humans opened fire simultaneously. The ambush was over in seconds. Strip their weapons and ammunition, Jae-sung ordered mechanically. Set charges for when their recovery team arrives. This was the rhythm of the resistance. Ambush. Scavenge. Trap. Retreat. Repeat. The Council had superior technology and numbers, But humans had turned their entire world into a death trap. Every building could hide soldiers. Every piece of debris could be an explosive. Every civilian could be an informant or a fighter. On the orbiting Council flagship, Admiral Krethix reviewed the casualty reports with exhausted eyes. He had aged 10 years in 3. The conquest that was supposed to take weeks had consumed 3 years of constant combat. 15,000 Council soldiers dead. 37 more ships destroyed by hidden human weapons or desperate attacks. The other Council species were openly questioning the invasion now. "Sir, another supply convoy was ambushed in Sector 7, his aide reported. 20 vehicles destroyed. The humans used civilian trucks loaded with explosives. Krethix slammed his fist on the console. How? How do they continue fighting? We have destroyed their military infrastructure. We control their orbit. We have taken their major cities. Why do they not surrender? His aide, a young officer who had studied human culture, spoke carefully. Admiral, I have read their history files. There is a precedent for this. They call it guerrilla warfare. In their past, smaller forces have resisted larger armies for years, even decades. They have stories of farmers defeating empires, of small nations refusing to submit to superpowers. This is part of their cultural identity. Culture does not stop plasma bolts, Krethix growled, but his voice held doubt. In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of New York, President Ji-woo met with her surviving cabinet members. The government had operated from underground facilities for 2 years. They moved constantly to avoid Council orbital scans. But they never stopped coordinating the resistance. Status report, Ji-woo said. Her hair had gone completely gray during the war. She had lost 30 pounds. But her voice remained steady. Defense Minister Park pulled up a holographic map. Earth forces control 60% of the planet's surface, mostly rural and suburban areas. The Council holds major cities but cannot maintain security outside urban centers. Our orbital stations are gone, but we have maintained a fleet of smaller ships operating from hidden asteroid bases. And the colonies? Ji-woo asked. Mars has fallen but maintains an active resistance. Europa, Titan, and Proxima remain free. The Council divided their forces to occupy multiple worlds, which weakened them everywhere. They expected submission. They got 7 different insurgencies across 7 different worlds. Ji-woo nodded. What about production? Underground factories continue producing weapons, ammunition, and drones. We have reverse-engineered some Council technology from captured equipment. Nothing matches their primary weapons. But we have made advances in shield technology and propulsion systems. How much longer can we sustain this? Ji-woo asked the question everyone feared. Minister Park met her eyes. As long as necessary. The Council is bleeding resources and political will. Their member species are fighting among themselves. Some want to withdraw. We just have to outlast them. In deep space, Commander Minseo led a raiding fleet of 20 human ships. They were small, fast vessels built in secret asteroid shipyards over 3 years of war, not powerful enough to face the Council fleet directly, but perfect for hit-and-run attacks on supply lines. Target confirmed, her sensor officer said. Council supply convoy. 12 freighters with 6 escort frigates. Minseo studied the tactical display. The convoy carried weapons, food, and reinforcements to Earth. Every convoy they destroyed meant fewer resources for the occupation, fewer soldiers to fight the resistance. Split into 3 groups, she ordered. Alpha Group, engage the escorts. Bravo Group, hit the freighters. Charlie Group, mining the escape route. Execute. The human ships emerged from behind a small moon at full speed. The Council escorts reacted quickly, but not quickly enough. The humans had learned to fight dirty. They used stolen Council identification codes to get closer before attacking. They targeted life support systems instead of heavily armored hulls. They launched waves of cheap, AI-guided missiles that overwhelmed point defense systems. The battle lasted 20 minutes. 3 human ships were destroyed, but the entire Council convoy was eliminated. Minseo felt no joy in the victory, only grim satisfaction. This was one less supply run to Earth. One small advantage for her people. On Earth, Observer Click walked through the ruins of Seoul with a Council patrol. He had requested transfer to the occupation forces to see the situation firsthand. What he found horrified him. The city was a tomb. Buildings stood as hollow shells. Streets were crater-marked battlegrounds. And yet, humans continued to resist from the ruins. The Council patrol he accompanied was tense, weapons ready, expecting attack from any direction. "This is madness," Click to the patrol commander. "You cannot hold a city where every citizen is an enemy. You cannot win an occupation where the occupied refuse to be occupied." "We have our orders," the commander replied. "Hold the city. Suppress resistance. At what cost?" Click gestured to the ruins. "Your forces lose soldiers every day to attacks. You cannot rebuild because humans sabotage construction. You cannot establish order because humans refuse to accept it. This is not an occupation. This is a quagmire." That night, Click sent an encrypted message to his homeworld. The Chithari had voted for the invasion, but many now regretted it. His message was simple. "The Council has awakened something that should have remained sleeping. The humans will never surrender. We should seek peace before this war consumes us all. Lever cease." In the Seoul ruins, Jae-sung sat with his squad during a rare quiet moment. They shared a meal of scavenged rations and melted snow for water. It was not much, but they were alive. "Do you think we can actually win?" Hana asked. She was cleaning her rifle, a ritual that brought comfort. Jae-sung considered the question. 3 years ago, he would have said victory meant defeating the Council and driving them from Earth. Now he understood the truth differently. "We already won," he said quietly. "They thought we would surrender in weeks, that we would see their technology and submit. Every day, we keep fighting, is a victory. Every ambush, every sabotage, every refusal to bow. We are proving that humans cannot be conquered. That is the only victory that matters." The squad nodded. They understood. This war was not about military victory. It was about proving a point to the galaxy. Humanity would never submit. No matter the cost. No matter how long it took. Above them, in orbit, Admiral Krethix received a message from the Council. Political pressure was mounting. Several species were withdrawing their forces. The war was becoming unpopular across the galaxy. He had 6 months to achieve victory, or the Council would vote to abandon the invasion entirely. 6 months to conquer a species that had already resisted for 3 years. Krethix looked at the blue planet below and felt a cold certainty settle over him. The Council had made a terrible mistake, and he would pay the price for it. But the humans would keep fighting. Because that was what humans did. Dr. Hana worked in a laboratory buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Titan, one of Saturn's moons. The Council had tried to take Titan twice and failed both times. Now it served as humanity's primary research and development facility, safely hidden where orbital bombardment could not reach. "Run the simulation again," she ordered her team. Around her, 50 scientists worked at terminals, their faces lit by screen glow. They had been working for 3 years on a single goal, closing the technology gap. The holographic display showed the test results. A human-designed shield generator. Reverse-engineered and improved from captured Council technology. Withstanding simulated plasma fire. It failed after 30 seconds, but that was 20 seconds longer than last month's design. "We are getting closer," her assistant said. "Another few months, and we might have shields that can match Council strength." Hana shook her head. "We do not need to match them. We need to exceed them. The Council expects us to fight their way. We need to fight smarter." She pulled up another project, one that had consumed her thoughts for months. Human scientists had discovered something interesting about Council weapons. They were powerful but inflexible, designed to work in standard conditions against standard defenses. Human weapons were weaker, but adaptable. What if we stop trying to make better shields? Hana said slowly. What if we make weapons that their shields cannot stop? Her team looked at her with interest. She explained her idea. AI-guided missiles that could learn and adapt in real time, changing their approach with every shot. Swarm tactics using thousands of cheap drones instead of a few expensive ships. Directed energy weapons tuned to frequencies that Council shields were not designed to block. It will require complete redesign of our weapons systems, her assistant said, and massive production capacity. Then we better start now, Hana said, because in 6 months, we are going to take back Earth. On Earth, Commander Minseo had returned from her raiding missions to lead the liberation planning. She stood in a crowded underground command center, with President Ji-woo and the remaining military leadership. A holographic display showed the Council positions around the planet. The Council fleet is weaker than 3 years ago, Minseo reported. They have lost 78 ships to our attacks and accidents. Several member species have withdrawn their forces. The Aquarians pulled out last month. The Vreks are stretched thin, trying to occupy 7 human worlds with reduced support. This is our chance. We still face a fleet of over 200 warships in orbit. Defense Minister Park said. Our forces cannot match that. In direct combat. We do not need direct combat, Minseo said. She manipulated the display. We have been building ships in secret for 3 years. Small, fast attack craft. We also have something new from Dr. Hana's team on Titan. New weapons, new shields, new tactics. We hit them everywhere at once, spread their forces thin. Then we strike at their command ship and cut off their coordination. President Ji-woo studied the plan. It was bold, possibly suicidal. But after 3 years of grinding resistance, humanity was ready to take the offensive. Do it, she ordered. Send word to all resistance cells, all hidden fleets, all colony defenders. In 1 week, we launch Operation Phoenix. We take back our home. The message spread across human space through encrypted channels. On Earth, resistance fighters prepared their weapons and studied maps of Council positions. In orbit, human crews in hidden ships checked their systems for the 1,000th time. On Mars, Europa, and the other colonies, fighters readied themselves for simultaneous uprisings. Jae-sung received the orders in his sole position. Operation Phoenix. The final offensive. His squad looked at him with mixture of hope and fear. This is it, he told them. Everything we have fought for, every friend we have lost. In 3 days, we hit every Council position in this sector at the same time. They will not know which fight to respond to. We overwhelm them with chaos. Across the galaxy, Observer Klixth had taken a dangerous step. He had begun secretly communicating with neutral species, sharing recordings of the war, videos of human resistance, images of Council occupation tactics, reports of civilian casualties on both sides. The galactic community was shocked. The Council had presented the invasion as a peacekeeping mission, bringing primitive humans into civilized society. Klixth's evidence showed the truth. An aggressive conquest of a species that wanted only to be left alone. Public opinion shifted. Several major species condemned the invasion. Trade agreements with Council members were suspended. The political pressure mounted until even the strongest supporters of the war began to waver. The Chithari government officially withdrew from the Council and declared neutrality. Klixth went further. He sent encrypted data to human forces, Council fleet positions, communication frequencies, tactical weaknesses. It was treason against his former allies, but he could not stand by while the galaxy made such a terrible mistake. Admiral Krethix felt the ground shifting beneath him. Political support for the invasion was collapsing. His forces were exhausted and demoralized. Supply lines were constantly under attack. And now, intelligence reported that humans were massing forces for a major offensive. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded of his intelligence officer. "We estimate between 150 to 200 vessels, sir. Small attack craft built in hidden facilities. Nothing that can match our warships individually. But if they attack in swarms..." Krethix did not need the officer to finish. He understood tactics. Quantity had its own quality. And human tactics had proven devastatingly effective over 3 years of warfare. "Recall all ground forces to defensive positions," he ordered. "Consolidate the fleet into a tighter formation. We will not let them break our orbital control." But consolidating meant abandoning some positions. It meant giving ground. It meant admitting that the Council could no longer hold everything they had taken. The day of Operation Phoenix arrived with dawn over Earth. At exactly 0600 hours, across every time zone, human resistance cells struck simultaneously. In Seoul, Jae Sung's squad hit a Council supply depot with explosives and stolen plasma weapons. In London, fighters emerged from the underground to attack occupation headquarters. In Cairo, Shanghai, and São Paulo, the same story repeated. Thousands of coordinated attacks across the planet. The Council ground forces were overwhelmed. They had prepared for resistance, but not resistance on this scale. This coordinated, this fierce. Garrison after garrison fell back or was overrun. The humans fought with 3 years of anger and determination. In orbit, Commander Mincio led the attack fleet. 180 human ships emerged from hiding spots around the solar system. They moved in tight swarms, using the new weapons from Titan, AI-guided missiles that adapted to point defense fire, energy weapons tuned to frequencies that overloaded Council shields, suicide drones by the thousands. "All ships, weapons-free," Mincio broadcast. "For Earth, for humanity, for every life they took from us." The space battle was chaos. The Council fleet had superior individual ships, but they were spread out, tired, and facing an enemy that had learned from 3 years of combat. Human ships swarmed capital vessels like insects, hitting from multiple angles. When Council ships destroyed one attacker, 2 more took its place. Admiral Krethix fought to maintain formation, but it was falling apart. His ships were taking damage faster than they could repair. Human forces were using kamikaze tactics again, but this time with purpose and coordination. 3 of his cruisers were already destroyed. "Sir, we are detecting more human ships entering the system," his sensor officer reported with panic in his voice. "Another 50 vessels from the direction of Jupiter, and something large from the asteroid belt." Krethix pulled up the new contacts. The large signature resolved into a massive structure. Not a warship. A fortress. The humans had built an entire battle station in the asteroid belt and hidden it for 3 years. The fortress, christened Defiance, opened fire with weapons that made Krethix's eyes widen. Massive railguns that launched asteroids at relativistic speeds. Power levels that matched his flagship. Humanity's desperation had bred innovation, and now they were unveiling 3 years of secret development. "All ships, emergency retreat," Krethix ordered. "Fall back to deep orbit. We cannot win this engagement." As the Council fleet retreated, human forces pressed their advantage. They reclaimed the orbital space stations. They landed reinforcements in liberated cities. After 3 years of occupation, Earth was fighting back with everything it had built in secret. On the ground, Jae Sung watched Council dropships flee toward orbit. His squad cheered. Around them, other resistance cells emerged from hiding. Tired and battered, but victorious. Seoul was free again. President Ji-woo broadcast from the liberated government building. "To all humanity, on Earth and across the colonies, the tide has turned. We have proven what we have known all along. We cannot be conquered. We cannot be broken. Today, we take back our sky." The war was not over. But for the first time in 3 years, humanity was winning. The war ended not with a dramatic final battle, but with a series of quiet surrenders across 3 months. One by one, the Council member species sued for peace. The Aquarians had already withdrawn. The Methians followed after losing another 12 ships. The Vrex held out longest, pride demanding they salvage something from the disaster. But even they finally admitted defeat. Admiral Krethik sat in his quarters aboard the damaged Eternal Dominion, staring at the surrender terms transmitted from his government. After 4 years of warfare, the invasion was officially over. The Council was dissolved. And he would face war crimes, charges for actions taken during the occupation. He thought about Observer Click's warning 4 years ago. The insectoid had been right about everything. The humans had not broken. They had adapted, survived, and eventually thrived. The Council had awakened something that should have remained sleeping. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. His aide entered, looking uncomfortable. "Sir, the human delegation has arrived to discuss the transfer of prisoners and withdrawal logistics. They are waiting in the conference room." Krethik straightened his uniform and walked to meet his enemies. The conference room was sparse. Aboard a neutral station between the fleets, 3 humans sat across the table. He recognized Commander Minseo, whose raiding fleets had destroyed so many supply convoys. Beside her sat Ambassador Minjun, who had been humanity's voice before the war. And at the head of the table, President Jiwoo. "Admiral Krethix," Jiwoo said without warmth. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "I had little choice," Krethix replied. "My government has ordered full cooperation with your terms." "Then let us begin," Jiwoo said. She pulled up a holographic document. "All Council forces will withdraw from human space within 60 days. All prisoners will be exchanged. Reparations will be paid to Earth and the colonies over the next 20 years, and you will surrender yourself for trial on charges of war crimes committed during the occupation." Krethix felt anger rise but pushed it down. He had expected this. "And what of my crew? My soldiers who followed orders? They will be allowed to leave?" Minjun said. "We are not interested in punishing everyone who fought. Only those who made the decision to invade, and those who committed atrocities during occupation. Our evidence is extensive." "You recorded everything," Krethik said bitterly. "We learned to document everything," Minseo said. "Every bombing of civilian areas, every execution of prisoners, every war crime your forces committed. The galaxy will know the truth about this invasion." Over the following weeks, Council forces withdrew from Earth and the colonies. Human citizens watched the alien ships leave with mixed emotions. Relief that the occupation was ending. Anger at the cost. And grim satisfaction that they had won. Jae-sung stood in the ruins of Seoul as the last Council transport lifted off. His squad was beside him, the 4 survivors of 4 years of war. They had fought in these streets for so long that peace felt strange. "What do we do now?" Hana asked. She was 21 years old, but looked older, scarred by combat and loss. "We rebuild," Jae-sung said. "We honor those who fell, and we make sure the galaxy never underestimates humanity again." The rebuilding took years. Cities were reconstructed from ruins. Populations recovered slowly. Memorials were built for the millions who died. Earth and the colonies bore scars that would never fully heal. But humanity did not just rebuild. They transformed. Dr. Hana's research became the foundation for a new generation of human technology. Within 5 years, human shields and weapons matched Council standards. Within 10, they exceeded them. The desperation of war had forced innovation that might have taken centuries during peacetime. Commander Minseo took command of the new United Earth Fleet. It was no longer a collection of outdated ships and desperate fighters. It was a modern military force, equipped with the lessons learned from 4 years of warfare. Other species watched nervously as humanity built and trained, wondering if the humans would seek revenge. They did not. Revenge was not the goal. Ambassador Minjun, now representing humanity in the reformed Galactic Assembly, stood before representatives of 40 species. The old council was gone, replaced by a more democratic structure, and humanity had a voice in it, earned through blood. We did not want this war, Minjun said. We wanted only to be left in peace, to develop at our own pace, to find our place in the galaxy naturally. The council decided otherwise. They thought our youth meant weakness. They thought our kindness meant submission. They learned differently. He paused, looking at each delegate. Some met his eyes. Others looked away, ashamed of their species' role in the invasion. We stand here today not as conquerors but as survivors, Minjun continued. We defeated the council not because we were stronger, but because we refused to surrender. Every species in this room should remember that lesson. Humanity will be your friend if you treat us with respect. We will be your partner in building a better galaxy. But we will never again be victims. Well, the Assembly voted to accept humanity as a full member, with equal voice and representation. The vote was unanimous. No one wanted to repeat the Council's mistake. Observer Klikth, now representing the Chithari in the new Assembly, approached Minjun after the session. His compound eyes reflected the chamber lights. I tried to warn them, Klikth said. I studied your species. I understood what they were unleashing. But no one listened. You tried, Minjun acknowledged. And you helped us in the end. The Chithari will always be friends to humanity because of that. I did what was right, Klikth said. Though it cost me. Many of my people still see me as a traitor. History will judge you kindly, Minjun said. You chose conscience over orders. That takes courage. 5 years after the war ended, President Ji Woo stood at the memorial wall in Seoul. The wall bore millions of names. Every human who died during the invasion and occupation. She found the name she was looking for. Captain Seo Yeon, who died ramming her ship into the Council flagship at Mars. Ji Woo had aged significantly during her time as president. Her term was ending, and she had chosen not to seek re-election. She had guided humanity through war and the difficult peace that followed. Now it was time for others to lead. We did it, she whispered to the names on the wall. We survived. We rebuilt. We made sure your sacrifices meant something. Behind her, Jae-sung approached. He was now a civilian, studying architecture to help rebuild Seoul. The scars on his face and arms were reminders of his service. But he no longer defined himself by war. Madam President, he said respectfully, I wanted to thank you for leading us through it all. Ji-woo smiled. I did not lead. You did. Every soldier who fought in the streets. Every scientist who developed new weapons. Every civilian who refused to give up. You are the ones who saved humanity. Then we all saved each other, Jae-sung said. On the edge of human space, construction crews put the finishing touches on a new station. It was massive, dwarfing anything humanity had built before the war. The station would serve as both a trade hub and a defensive fortress, proof that humanity could never again be caught unprepared. Admiral Krethix, facing trial on the neutral world of Centris Prime, watched recordings of human reconstruction with something approaching respect. He had underestimated them completely. They were not the primitive species he had expected to conquer in weeks. They were survivors, adaptable, and determined beyond anything he had imagined. His trial concluded with a guilty verdict. He would spend the rest of his life in detention, a warning to others about the cost of aggressive war. As guards led him away, he looked back at the human prosecutors. Tell your people something for me, he said. Tell them the galaxy has learned. No one will make this mistake again. Ambassador Minjun, attending the trial, nodded. We will make sure of it. 10 years after the invasion began, Earth celebrated Liberation Day. Cities held parades. Veterans were honored. The fallen were remembered. And across human space, from Earth to the most distant colonies, people looked to the future with hope. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy the hard way. Not through conquest or domination, but through resilience and refusal to surrender. They had proven that technology and numbers were not everything, that determination and unity could overcome any odds. The galactic community had learned a valuable lesson, one that would shape interstellar relations for generations. Never underestimate a species fighting for survival. Never mistake patience for weakness. And never, ever, invade humanity. Because humans do not break. They adapt, they survive, they overcome, and they remember. In a quiet office on Earth, Dr. Hana reviewed designs for the next generation of human starships. They would be faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything currently in space. Not for conquest, but for exploration and defense. Just in case, she said to herself, saving the files. Just in case anyone forgets. Outside her window, Earth's blue skies were clear. Ships moved between the planet and its orbital stations. Life continued. Scarred, but unbroken. Humanity looked to the stars not with fear, but with confidence. They had survived the worst the galaxy could throw at them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And the galaxy would never again make the mistake of testing whether humanity could be broken, because the answer was clear. No, never. Not while a single human drew breath.